What plaything can you offer me today?
The planet Earth.
What's happening?
It's an attack.
Pathetic earthlings. Who can save you now?
Flash! They'll kill you!
Savior of the universe.
Let's all team up and fight him.
Prepare him for torture.
I want him.
Stop at nothing.
I love you! But we only have 14 hours to save the Earth!
Flash Gordon is still alive.
Gordon's alive? Must be my lucky day.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. This movie is so much fun.
It's so much fun. I'm glad that we finally got to it.
If you have an aversion to the color red, we are very sorry, but it is what it is. Listeners, my name's Pete.
And I'm Scott.
And these
are the movies that made us gay.
Absolutely.
Seán Ferrick from Trek Culture. Welcome back to the show. Almost a year since we did our Star Trek episode.
I know. Oh my God. Thank you so much for having me back. As we were just saying, I mean, where has that year gone? Where?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What the heck?
But today's episode, we're talking about Flash Gordon, released December 5th, 1980, directed by Mike Hodge. And of course, you got to give a shout out to Dino De Laurentiis.
Dino De Laurentiis.
Dino De Laurentiis joint. Seán, thank you so much for joining us. And we were just very curious of what your thoughts were on this movie. Just being a Star Trek sci-fi fan, Flash Gordon, had you seen it?
Okay, so first of all, I have to thank you because you have given me the gift of this film. I had never seen it before.
Oh, great. I
love that. I've known of it forever. I think how can you not know of it? It permeates pop culture. Yeah. And so I was watching it, and I'm actually like, I'm struggling so hard to find, like, how do you describe a film that is at the exact same moment the most 70s film ever made and the most 80s film ever made?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, how does that happen? Like, sorry, the entire rest of the 80s. They did it. They did it on December 5th, 1980.
It was achieved with this movie. Yeah, I think this movie is very, like you said, it's very 70s as well as very 80s, but it's very, like, schizophrenic in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. You know, some of the trivia quotes, some of the pull quotes are like the most expensive improvised movie ever made.
Yeah.
You know?
I listened to the commentary by Mike Hodges before we jumped on this call, and he pretty much said, yes, they had a script, but most of the shots in this movie were improvised, that they were pretty much calling them on the spot.
You know, like sometimes you hear stories of how people were allowed to improvise, and you sort of know in the back of your head, it's like, listen, there's millions of dollars involved. You know, you're kind of, I'm sure, like, maybe we got the odd word in there. I don't believe a single moment of this film was originally planned. I think they rocked up on the day and said, right, we're doing this costume. So, all right, that's great. Oh, we have Max von Sydow today. That's all right. Max is going to do some stuff today. That is fine. And some of the stories I've seen about Sam Jones on set as well. The fact that there is a film, I think, is a bit amazing. This is like a triumph of adversity.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I think I was reading that they lost him in post-production, so all of his dialogue is dubbed.
I just saw that just before we came on.
If not all of it, then a good portion of it, right? Yeah. So, Seán, you said we sort of introduced you to this movie. Scott, you don't go very far back with this.
I don't go very far back with this movie, and I mean, we got to say it, but I feel like this movie was introduced to a new audience. I mean, you have to mention Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
And Ted.
Yeah.
And Family Guy. That Seth MacFarlane really loves this movie.
Yeah.
And it was a big part of Ted. And I think that I knew about Flash Gordon, but like I didn't know all that much about it.
Right.
I may have recognized the image of him, just because
the poster,
but I had never seen it.
Right. I have a long and storied history with this. My good friend in college, Matt Earhart, my best friend, was...
You've talked a little bit about Matt on the show.
Yes, he was very obsessed with this movie. He's a straight guy. We were just like that, like gay dude, straight dude, like best friend, like couple. He was very obsessed with this movie. He liked it a lot and kind of introduced it to me. Then later on, again, seeing it in Ted and seeing Seth McFarland's love for it. And now you kind of see that people like Taika Waititi and Edgar Wright like really love this movie. And these are all people that are in my general age range, right?
The fingerprints of this property are all over something like Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and when you watch it, you get shades of Masters of the Universe. And, you know, even when you go back and you watch, this movie was released in 1980. There was a Filmation animated series released in 1979, which is available on Tubi with ads for free. If you are a fan of Masters of the Universe and you missed the Flash Gordon cartoon, watch it. Do yourself a favor. Ming the Merciless is Skeletor. Like, literally, it's the same voice. You know, Princess Aura, Scott's favorite character.
Yeah, she's so fierce.
Princess Aura in the animated series, the character model is Teela from Masters of the Universe. They just her hair's a little bit longer. She's wearing a bigger wig. It's got all the cool like glittery special effects. There was a 2007 or 2006 Sci-Fi Channel live action series that was 1 season long. And it starred the actor who was Whitney on Smallville. He's blonde and really handsome, just super good looking. And it's trash, but it's one of those like early mid 2000s sci-fi shows that are like syndicated that I just kind of latch onto. Like, I don't know, I can sit down and watch Andromeda. It's garbage, but I'll watch it. You know, it feels very like the Stargate TV shows, SG-1 and all that. Just kind of takes itself very seriously, but it's got a crazy premise. So Flash Gordon there's a long history with it going back to the comic strip. A lot of people refer to it as a comic book, but it was like a newspaper, funny pages comic strip, right? And those were great because, and I remember being a very small kid and being obsessed with the comic strip and the Sunday funnies because they were in color. And you would go and be like, yeah, Spider-Man, all right. And Spider-Man would be like, hi, Aunt May. And she'd be like, I made you breakfast. You're going to eat it? And be like, great. See you next week.
Yeah.
Nothing would happen. You would have to be reading this for like 15 years.
Or just trying to dive into the Prince Valiant comic.
Yeah. No, you can't do that as kid. But so there's this long and storied history with Flash Gordon. I mean, you got to talk
especially with a long and storied history of the film of Flash Gordon, because as the story goes, Lucas wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie in the mid 70s. The rights were too expensive, so he just wrote his own, and it became Star Wars, the most successful science fiction movie of all time. And Dino De Laurentiis wanted in on that. So he bought the rights to Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
And he wanted to make a movie of that level of Star Wars with it.
It's so funny. Just in watching it, you can see that there was so much ambition and the reach possibly was a bit further than their grasp.
Right.
Because I again just seen this, so the same cinematographer for this film and Star Wars.
Found yesterday, I was like, what?
I was kind of gagged when I found that out when we were watching it.
Mind.
I mean, I think that this movie is just a very fascinating rabbit hole on IMDb of the connections of the crew of this movie and just what they had worked on.
Yeah.
Like 100%, you're like, you've got a bunch of shared cast between cameos and small parts as well, but it's got a lot of heart, because you kind of struggle to go because I was there trying to think of what would your reviews, what on earth is there to say about Flash Gordon other than I now know what it feels like to, I don't know, OD on LSD, I guess. No, I don't know. Or or at least I can imagine that's what it would look like.
Right.
Is this film?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I know that the original director was Nicholas Roeg. And Nicholas Roeg did like Don't Look Now. And his take on Flash Gordon was supposed to be a little more kind of reflective of just who we are as a society on Earth.
I don't want to see that.
Dino De Laurentiis was like, that's not the movie that we're making. Sorry about it. Yeah.
I knew because I think it was not the 11th hour, but certainly sort of after pre-production, there was this directive of like, okay, cool, but a comedy.
Right.
But that wasn't what we set out to make here. Yeah, but a comedy. It's like, oh, God, okay.
Yeah. My question is when you watch something like this, okay, obviously we have Star Wars. This is our like high watermark 1977, right? But the thing about Star Wars is that it was almost made in this vacuum with Industrial Light and Magic being created out of a bunch of plucky guys saying, we got to get these shots done and let's do it right. And, the editing not quite working right. So George Lucas's wife stepping in and like taking the handles.
Kind of it being filmed in England, there was minimal studio input.
Right.
With Fox at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Star Wars comes out and we have this, Star Wars. And then before that we have 2001. Okay. And they look a certain way. Right. Then we get other movies like Flash Gordon, like something like Battle Beyond the Stars. What is it about these movies? Is it the dollar signs that are just not there? That when you watch the ships flying across the sky and you see Mingo City, and it just looks like a toy.
It does. You can see merchandising all over this film. But I think what I really got from it is that it tries really hard to look expensive.
Right. Yeah.
And
Fails.
I think an awful lot of the time when you do that, you venture into gaudy.
Yeah.
You venture into, it becomes, and I say this because I don't want this to sound like I'm about to go and rip this film to pieces because I'm really not. But you start to get in the in the kind of tacky era. And I mean, you mentioned the red before. Red, gold. Gold, red. There's a lot of it.
More gold, yeah. Like, silver.
Okay, wow. And it's something that I'm actually very recently I've seen Forbidden Planet for the first time ever, which is a crime that I hadn't seen beforehand.
Love it.
And you can see, I think Forbidden Planet just became the template for sci-fi once it was made. You either tried to look like Forbidden Planet, Star Trek, or you tried to not look like Forbidden Planet, Star Wars. And I think this tried to do both.
Yeah.
And we're going to give them a big thumbs up for trying.
We got to give a shout out to the production designer, Dario Donati. And I believe that he worked with Fellini.
Love it.
And Zeffirelli.
Love it.
And from what I understand when looking at the supplements on our Arrow video disc, that they didn't really read the script. They got a rough idea of what they were going to do, and then there's like, this is the forest set, this is what we're shooting with. And they were just like, okay, all right. Or just bringing all of these crazy costumes to set and figure out how to shoot around them.
Yeah. You're like, that tracks. The costumes are gaudy, tacky, all those things come to mind. But like, I don't know, there's something about it that just
he also did the costumes too.
Yeah, it just doesn't look like anything from the time as far as the look of everything. And we're sitting there watching it the other night to kind of get our recap, and I'm just thinking to myself, I want to go and watch Jupiter Ascending again.
Sure.
It gave me a lot of Jupiter Ascending vibes with just how crazy, there's the Hawkmen and the lizard guy and there's like a mouse girl. Like it's just all this crazy weird characters in the background. And I feel like something like Jupiter Ascending really kind of owes a lot to these Ming the Merciless court scenes, Mila Kunis having a weird wedding in outer space, and she's just like, but I'm from Chicago.
I love that we've mentioned Jupiter Ascending on the past 3 episodes.
Have we?
We have.
Hey, it's a classic.
Well,
folks.
it is one of the most influential movies of all time.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's just the crazy mix of the visuals, the script, and the actors. I mean, Max von Sydow aside, you know,
like, yeah. So here's the thing. If we're going to go into this film and we're looking for, you know, like, let's go with we're going to go with the obvious comparison, which is Star Wars, right? Star Wars had a lot of, I feel, very strong actors with not the first person to say this, not an amazing script. Good story, right? But not an amazing script.
Dialogue,
right?
Problems,
Yeah. This one didn't really have a stellar acting pedigree behind it, and so as you don't think I'm trying to sound like it didn't need to be. It wasn't about bringing in the James Earl Jones and, you know, the Harrison Ford still, you know, kind of only starting out at this point. It wasn't about that. The fact that Max von Sydow was in it, you can tell straight away that, like, you know, kind of, I see the actors on set today. Everyone else is there with him. I mean, Sam Jones, in fairness to him, he was playing a football player who gets chucked in a rocket, and then he's on some sort of like kind of space station citadel, and then he's on a planet, and in fairness, I would also be very confused. So he nails the looking confused in a lot of scenes.
Definitely.
Timothy Dalton. Now, this is very early. Timothy Dalton. This is pre-Bond, and he chews that scenery so subtly. He's still chewing the scenery, but he's not going for, you know, the kind of we're going to do a subtle performance. You would never accuse anyone in this film of giving a subtle performance, but for the people in the film, I think he does the most with the least.
Right.
And then there's Brian Blessed.
Oh,
and I don't know. Was Brian Blessed? And I love you could say this of any performance of his. Was he always filmed 3 miles away, and he had to speak that way so that the mic would pick him up?
Impetuous boy! Oh, well, who wants to live forever?
Because I love him for that, because if there's anyone who's having a ball, it's Brian Blessed in this film.
They're like, we don't need to mic you, Brian. You're fine as is. Just
we're picking up good.
Just do what you do. The way he can unhinge his jaw to open up his mouth wider than anyone I've ever seen. Let me ask you this. Does Jerry Butler owe his entire career to Brian Blessed? I feel like he's just been doing a Brian Blessed impersonation. After I watched this again last night, I was like, it's just Jerry Butler. Gerard Butler.
Oh, or Gerard Butler.
I think he's just given me Brian Blessed. Like, I think he's just kind of modeling his career on that, and he hasn't told anyone. I figured it out.
I see now. I want to see the remake of Greenland with Brian Blessed playing Gerard Butler's character, and I think Gerard Butler does a great job in that film.
Yeah.
But if you had Brian Blessed was the one, he'd probably fight the asteroid.
He'd just punch it. Just punch it in the nose. Speaking of Brian Blessed, Prince of Voltan, this character. I mean, we have to do a little bit of a deep dive into these characters, but it's like the Hawkmen in these like leather daddy harnesses
and these wings. All of these Falcon Studio extras in the back of them.
I mean, like, it writes itself here, doesn't it? Yeah. But like this is one of those, again, like visually, there's a lot of homoeroticism in it, hence we're here. And also, it's so funny because there's also so much male gaze. Yeah. The two lead female characters have a pillow fight at one point. You know, it's like, of course they do, because why wouldn't they? Yeah. You know, and yet everyone is walking around in either the tightest pants ever worn by men ever, or the no pants ever worn by men ever.
Yes.
And you're kind of like, who is this film for?
Right.
I like Flash's little booty shorts that he wears when he's going to be executed.
Flash is wearing leather panties for his execution. No, you're right. There's the pillow fight between Dale and Princess Aura. There's also the like flogging scene.
Yeah.
With the like Evelyn character. Yeah. And Princess Aura, like Princess Aura is put through the ringer in this movie. She's being slapped around, whipped, like chained.
All doing it while serving face. That gorgeous face of hers.
With that crazy makeup job.
And I
like
think that
eyes.
she was just one that Dino De Laurentiis just like was just fascinated with. She's so beautiful, we have to put her in this movie.
Her and the actress who is Kala, who is the Evelyn, like evil henchwoman who does whip Princess Aura. They're both, I believe they're both Italian women. They have these thick Italian accents. And it's interesting that it's like there's a couple of those like Italian actors that are thrown in there, but then everybody else is just kind of like all over the place. There's British, there's British people, there's Americans.
I was seeing on IMDb there as well that caused issues on set because you had people who quite literally couldn't understand each other because there was a language barrier. And again, brave choice for the film to make absolutely no effort to hide that fact.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think, but does that come from Dino De Laurentiis just being this old school Italian filmmaker? You watch movies like Planet of the Vampires and these like, all the like Mario Bava, like giallo horror movies and even spaghetti westerns. Where just everybody's on set just dubbed. It's all looped because everybody's speaking their own language.
We'll figure it out later.
No one understood each other on set, and they said, "You know what? We'll just make them all speak English at the end of the day." And I think for a foreign audience, for non-English speaking audiences, that kind of filmmaking is a little bit more accepted.
Sure.
Whereas American audiences, English speaking audiences are just like, we don't like that. That is weird to us.
We just watched RRR. Have you heard of RRR yet from India?
I have heard of it. I haven't seen it. It's every review I've seen is like a love letter.
And RRR is very, it's very that. Of that, all of the dialogue is dubbed.
About a third of the movie is in English, but even the English dialogue spoken by European,
it's probably just different actors,
Western actors, that's all dubbed as well. So it's kooky. But, like I said, it's just this kind of foreign filmmaking kind of let's get this done, let's get it done quick, and then we'll figure it out at the end of the day. But I don't know. Does it add to the movie's charm?
I think so.
I have to say, I'm still reeling, maybe is the word I'm looking for from this film. I think this is never remake this film.
No.
Never. It is a complete slice of what seems to be well-meaning chaos.
Yeah.
They set out to make a sci-fi B movie a la Ed Wood, that kind of style with a budget, and as I said, the budget is there. It might not have been used in the right places, but the budget is there, and it's just silly.
Yeah,
but it's good silly. It is very much. Despite the fact there's clearly this is this close away from being a penthouse porno. And yet I would still say it's completely safe for kids.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of weird line that it walks.
Speaking of Penthouse, so the editor of Penthouse was involved in the production of this movie.
Bob Guccione.
The sexy ladies in the courtroom are his like models. So yep. Because of course that one had his like hands involved in this movie somehow.
But you know why this movie probably shouldn't be remade? It's because it's from that crop of properties that are so old that it's so hard to make them current, like John Carter. The main heavy in this movie is Ming the Merciless with the mustache and the pointy eyebrow. It's like, all right, maybe we should rethink, the big baddie in the franchise, because
we may just try and avoid Fu Manchu as your main antagonist. Like, I don't think it was particularly safe at the time, and it most certainly is not okay to do that now. And is it strange of me to say, because again, I feel there wasn't a bad bone in this film in terms of, I don't think there was any ill intent. That I don't feel, I mean, I'm not in any way defending that kind of depiction of a character that is very much caricature. Yeah. But I don't think that there was an ill intent behind that.
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think so. And I think that somebody like De Laurentiis and the filmmakers were just like, it's a different planet. It's outer space. They're, from beyond the fourth dimension. Sure, they still walk down the aisle to the wedding march, but it is a completely different, time and place. And so that's just a name that we're stuck with. The character design on Max von Sydow is questionable, but I think the intention was we're not clearly going to go down a Charlie Chan Fu Manchu road with it. We're just, we're taking what we have. And I think that was a little bit more acceptable at the time because, you see his daughter is Princess Aura, and she's just, clearly a European, Italian white woman. They're not going any further. Maybe with his armed guards in in Ming's court that have they have masks on. Those are a little questionable. Mm-hmm. But okay, so we have to let's backtrack a little bit and talk about just the story. It's kind of a basic story.
Well, do you want to talk about the writer first?
Oh, yes.
I think it's interesting when you look at Lorenzo Semple Jr. He came from writing Batman from the 60s, which totally makes sense.
The Adam West Batman.
The Adam West Batman.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but to everything, not just the dialogue, but like the look of it, just the campiness of it all.
And he had just collaborated with Dino for King Kong before this movie.
Okay,
too.
And that's another one. King Kong was that at the time taken as this like prestige like sci-fi action thriller? You watch it now and it's like, oh boy. Mm-hmm. Jessica Lange, come on, God bless Jessica Lange, but she's given me
Dwan.
She's given me first day on the job.
Have you ever seen the 70s King Kong?
No, I haven't.
It's kind of a trip. Like he's climbing the Twin Towers of New York at the very end of the movie. It's definitely like a King Kong from the 1970s.
Yeah, it's
gotcha.
Yeah. It's very guy in a suit. It's very, there's not a lot of like careful editing to make it. Let's not make it look as man in a suit as we could. No, they were just like, shoot it full frame. That is a human man.
I love that. It is what it is. Yeah. You all know this is the 70s.
Yeah,
there wasn't any such thing as computer images at this point. So it's just like, well, all they can do is either get a man in a suit or, I guess, a real ape.
Yeah.
It's one or the other.
Yeah. So we have Lorenzo Semple writing this crazy script that we said, are we adhering to it? Maybe. Questionable. Sam J. Jones?
Yeah.
Sam J. Jones is cast. He is a professional football player in the United States.
I guess that as the story goes, he was on a game show.
Yeah.
And De Laurentiis' wife was watching it at the time, and she's like, that's Flash Gordon. Bring him in for this movie. And that's how he got cast. Was just seeing him off of a
he was a contestant on like Hollywood Squares
on a game show.
Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that works.
Did he play for the Jets? I don't know.
He played for the Jets
in the
movie.
film. He does. He definitely says he says Jets in the film, whether that's in real life or not.
Yeah,
I don't know enough about American football teams.
Right.
I mean, for all I know, the Jets is just what we call people who play football. I mean, I know I've just alienated some of your audience. I'm sorry.
I don't think a lot of our audiences are big football fans, so don't worry about it.
This is another thing that goes back to my point of who is this film for?
Right,
which of the people watching this film were the diehard football fans that were here for the football fight in Ming's court?
Oh my God.
I'm looking at this going like, this is one of the greatest fight scenes in cinema history. Why is this not remembered as much as it is? Because he's not trying to get away. He's clearly trying to score a touchdown, and no one, bar these few guards, are doing anything to stop him. And then Dale's a cheerleader at one point, and it's just like, what is going on? Dale, who we must remember, he met Dale 3 minutes before this scene, which is hilarious. I mean, there's a talk about, he'd seen her in the bar the night before, but we're not talking about people who've known each other for years.
Yeah.
Prior relationship. I think I love this film.
I'm so glad. So Sam J. Jones, he comes in. They dye his hair a little bit blonder because Flash Gordon, as this character, has very blonde hair. In the animated series, it looks like Aquaman.
Played by Buster Crabbe in the old shorts.
The old Universal serials.
Google photos of Buster Crabbe.
Yeah, he's a very, very handsome, like old-timey black and white actor. Flash Gordon meets Dale Arden on a plane, like a private plane.
And she's just like a main character of the comic.
She is. She's his girlfriend in the comic.
She's the girl.
Also from Earth. Okay. I think in this movie she's a reporter.
I thought that she was a travel agent.
I don't know what she is. It's not.
She's travel. Yeah, because doesn't he make a joke? It's funny to see a travel agent being afraid of flying.
Right. Because she doesn't like to fly.
She's like, all right, yeah, grand.
And as you said, they meet on this plane, and the plane is immediately engulfed in. The world is completely like falling apart at this point, right?
Because Emperor Ming is bored. And he's picking a fight with Earth.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
That's right. It starts off with just voiceover. And he's Clytus, I'm bored. And he finds a planet. And he says, let's fuck with them. And then he uses his switchboard of buttons, which include hot hail.
Earthquake.
Like thunderstorms.
Volcanic
eruptions.
Yeah.
And and Pete and I were thinking, like, would it be an earthquake if you were on another planet and you use that? But I think we were putting way too much thought.
Yeah.
We were putting way too much thought into this movie.
Yeah. So by happenstance, they meet Dr. Arkoff, who is like a weird doomsday prepper. He has a rocket ship. Homemade rocket ship.
Of course he does.
It just all has to happen in order for this story to get off the ground, and we got no time.
You just got to accept it.
Yeah.
It's a plot where if you pick any one of the threads, any one of them, the entire thing unspools. But then more fool us for expecting it to not do that.
Right.
That's how I would look at it. This film, when they were writing this film, he was not sitting there going, I'm getting the Oscar for best screenplay. This is what I'm going for. No, he's going for the Participants Award for holy crap, this got made.
Absolutely. And the only reason I'm setting up these, because these are our main three human earthling characters, right? So we've got Sam J. Jones, as I've said. As Dale Arden, we've got the incomparable Melody Anderson, who has gone on to do absolutely nothing.
Did you see the movie that she made the year before this?
No, what did she do?
Battle of the
Network.
Oh no, she was on Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica. Okay,
I thought that she was on in Battle of the.
Battle Beyond the Planets. Yeah,
Battle Beyond the Planets. But yeah, it's Battlestar.
Sure. Okay. Also, a scion of acting chops. Mm-hmm. The old Battlestar Galactica TV show from the 80s. And as Dr. Zarkov, we have Topol, who are musical theater fans or listeners will recognize from Fiddler on the Roof. He played Tevye.
Oh yeah,
in the movie version. Uh-huh. So he's like a big actor. He's from Israel, and he's actually done a lot of stuff. But his performance in this movie is insane.
Oh yeah,
he is marching to the beat of his own drum the whole film. Like, yeah. I maybe they gave him direction to be like, look, you got to be a little bit unhinged. We've got to really not know what's coming net. Oh, you're living this. Yeah. Okie dokie. Right. You're going method.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely method. Dale and Flash just, it's interesting because Scott had the director's commentary on earlier today, and the director just mentioned, like, there are things that happen in this movie, and you just have to buy that these two are so dumb that they just, that they're just like, okay, our plane just crashed. We're here in this weird guy's like garage like rocket hangar, and he's like, and we need a phone, and he's like, yeah, it's in there, and they're like, sure, that looks like a phone booth, and they just walk in, and he don't care, and this is the director of the movie who's saying, you know, a lot of crazy shit's been going on in the last 2 days for these guys, so they're just going with the flow, so that's why they're making these crazy decisions. I love that. Because come on,
I love this is one of those films like, you know, when you do that the test of, you know, can a 6-year-old see through the plot holes?
Right.
You're just like, this is so not about that.
No,
this is, like you said, you've got to get him from A to B to C. They crash the plane and they walk, and there's actually a gag, isn't there, where Zarkov, so, you know, are you injured? And Flash just goes, no. Grant, okay, yeah, that's a good landing, mate. You know, person who's never landed a plane before, and then with a scratch on them, they walk into the rocket, because as they do, and they're just like, I don't think there's a phone in here. No, we won't leave. We'll stay here, because why would we? And that's just how things going. So, in terms of, if I'm ever in a crisis, I want one of these characters, because they are so unfazed by everything that's happening.
And those are the kinds of people that live through everything, that they walk away from car crashes. They walk away from plane crashes.
Exactly.
Those are the kind of people that are just like, wow, did you see that? Yeah, I did. How are you alive? They just have the dumbest luck.
It's kind of interesting that they don't make the character of Dale too kind of shrieky or just always screaming.
Yeah.
Like, it never turns into like Kate Capsaw from the Temple of Doom territory. And it's kind of fun to see her when she becomes like a boss later and starts shooting people.
Sure.
Or like karate chopping guards.
I totally agree with you. I like that, because, I mean, again, this is not the film that we look to for the best versions of feminism ever.
Yeah.
But she doesn't become that damsel in distress.
Yep.
She's not, you know, she's not like, you know, Flash has to go and rescue her again. You know, it's nothing like that. And I just love that. Through their own misadventure / escape artists, they end up standing in front of Voltron. They're like, oh, we'll just have a full conversation here. We're all fine. Yeah, fine. Everyone's fine here. That's great. I just really love it, because whatever day they're having, everyone else is having a very different day to them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. So we get introduced to even more characters. This movie has a lot of characters. So that's kind of the thing with like recapping.
Kind of in this throne room, you get set up of all of these neighboring planets and people that live on them. Can you explain this?
Okay. So first of all, the planet is called Mongo. The dictator man in charge is Ming the Merciless, and the crazy golden city is Mingo City. Okay, so this is a lot of words that sound very similar. Okay, so they're on the planet Mongo, right? There are other like realms that these people live in. Prince Baron, who is Timothy Dalton, comes from like the forest,
pretty much just playing Robin Hood
region, just playing Robin Hood. There is Prince Voltan, who is from the Hawkmen, and they've got like a floating city, kind of a Bespin floating city in the clouds situation. But the thing is, when there's a moment when Princess Aura breaks Flash out, right, and she's trying to get him to escape to go to the forest realm with Balin, right? See, you would think that the Hawkmen live in the forest. They don't. They live in the city in the clouds. Weird. So she's calling out things as they're flying by, and she's like, "Oh, that's the planet, blah blah blah," and then they cut to it, and it's like a floating rock platform. That's not a planet at all. Then she's like, "And that's the planet so and so," and you're like, "But that's like an iceberg.
That's like a rock floating in space. Yeah. Is this an asteroid?"
Yeah. So again, this isn't that movie.
Before Flash gets to ask the question, she just starts eating his face.
Well, yeah. I mean, come on.
I love it. While at the same time giving out to him for not paying attention to piloting the rocket. Well, pick one.
Yes. I mean, the people of Mongo are horny, for one, and very impatient. But so as far as like the geography and how the world building is leaving a little bit to they've left a little bit on the floor there for the world building. I'm giving them a C- for that because it's very confusing, everything that's going on. But suffice it to say that Ming has a daughter who starts off evil, and I love that she's evil because at one point she's with Ming and Dale's crying, and she goes, "There's water coming out of her eyes." What is that? And he's like, "Oh, it's the sign of their weakness." It's like, oh, okay. Princess Aura, I think I said earlier, she's one of Scott's favorite characters. Her looks are incredible.
She has like some spandex workout wear in like the last act of the movie that I think is pretty fierce. She has beautiful eye makeup.
She has great eye makeup. She's introduced in like this like gold number with like this things like swirling up her legs.
It's very Night at the Disco. I love it.
It's very disco.
I think that for anyone listening to this who hasn't seen the film, to get an idea of what this character is like, not so much in appearance but in performance, think Kristen Wiig's character from Zoolander 2. I think is absolutely based on Princess Aura in this film.
I can actually see that.
And I was just watching going like, I'm living for this. I am living for this. This is so brilliant. Yeah. And then suddenly pillow fight.
I mean, it's a pillow, and then in the pillow fight, they're wearing these very like gauzy, sheer, like flowing things with just bathing suits underneath.
Is this with the other concubines?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Dale, unfortunately, Dale does kind of just get thrown into a room with a bunch of like concubines, and they're just kind of telling her like, "You're gonna marry Ming eventually. Make peace with it. This is going to happen."
Here is the substance to drink that just knocks you out, that you won't remember anything.
Well, she doesn't say. She says,
"Oh no, it's even."
Yeah, she says, "Will it make me not remember?"
It's even worse. It's like you will remember, but this will make you not care that you remember. It's like, oh my god, oh my god. I'm sorry if this is dark, but a lot of very dodgy people watched this film and went, "That's a really good idea." I'm going to go and mass produce that.
Yeah. You won't care that you won't mind that you remember. Oof. All right. And all these ladies are all dressed in like crazy, like these concubine outfits. But it's interesting that the character of Aura does kind of have this like, I don't know, she's just that in love with Flash that she just like has this, she changes sides,
multiple boyfriends because she's,
oh my god!
dating the guy that brings Flash back from the dead, and then she also has a thing going on with Timothy Dalton.
This is a very sex positive film. This
Absolutely.
is like polyamory is completely celebrated.
There you go.
They may not know about each other, but I get the feeling it would be very celebrated, especially when she's standing with Prince Baron at one point going, she's pretty visible up there. So, if anyone has an issue, raise your hand now.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, but no one ever comments. There's no raised eyebrow. There's nothing like that. It's like, oh, the fact that she would use, sexuality to get what she's wanted.
Yeah.
There's no kind of like, oh, you're a bad person for doing this. No, she's just like, no. And even when she delivers Flash, to Baron in, Robin Hood land, she's like, right, cool. Anyway, gives a kiss, I have to go home. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Maybe the planet Mongo is just a lot more egalitarian and, maybe the sex is... Because, again, there is that woman general who...
Oh, I also love her, too. Yeah. In that torture scene,
that woman general, she's very high up in the military.
She
rankings.
was giving me what's her name from the Masters of the Universe movie,
Evelyn. Yeah,
Evelyn. Yeah.
What are you doing to me?
Oh, we're just emptying your mind.
What?
We are going to empty your memory, as we might empty your pockets. doctor.
No, don't do that. Please, I beg you. My mind is all I have. I spent my whole life trying to fill it.
Begin.
Yeah, and that's
I was thinking there just seems to be, I know it's a different film, a different story, but I mean, if you were to put Masters of the Universe as a title on this film, I think I'd be like, I accept that.
Sure.
yeah.
Yep.
I accept this fully, you know?
Yeah. I feel like if I was a kid and my dad just told me this is a He-Man movie, I'd be like, okay.
Well, it's interesting to sort of
He's
compare
blonde.
both of those movies. Would you just say Dino De Laurentiis is just the canon Globus Brothers, but just sort of with the bigger checkbook?
That was what I was saying. Like the canon films, you know, Golan Globus and all of those movies look a certain way, but they also were very tightly budgeted.
We're going to be doing a He-Man movie, but we're going to be running around Southern California.
Yeah. It's not going to be set on a distant planet. It is going to be set in Los Angeles today. You know, that's their way of cheating it. This one, they were like, no, we're going to Mingo City and we're going to build the entire city and we're going to build a city in the clouds. Sure, their lavish feast is just spray painted styrofoam, but you know, everything else looks great. I have to say, they you know, when you have a limited budget or whatever, or this is clearly before, you know, computer graphics and all of that, they had to get creative. And I think that, I mean, the amount of paint swirling in water in this movie,
the space backgrounds.
Yeah.
I think they look cool.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty rad.
I think they do. I actually, I was kind of marveling at just how pretty this film actually is. Like, yeah, right, there's more blue screen than I know what to do with, you know. I mean, personally, I was completely sold on the Hawkmen are actually flying. But, like, as well, it's the kind of film where, you know, in the opening few minutes, you're like, no, I'm not going to be sitting here looking for the strings for the film. If I want to see them, they're there. But particularly those swirling backgrounds, I was like, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, that is gorgeous. And okay, they're gorgeous.
And it makes the movie look so unique. You know, it just gives it that Flash Gordon. Like,
it also kind of just expands the universe of the movie so much that it doesn't look completely set bound.
Yeah. Because otherwise it would just be like black curtains or something. Yeah.
That's actually a really good point, because all of the, I suppose, set pieces in terms of a character dialogue are all so clearly on a soundstage, you know, and especially when you're trying to do, I think particularly in, I've got into the habit of Robin Hood place, but you know, on the Forest World, particularly there you see it, because I think of trees, I think of outdoor, which means I can clearly see these are fake. However, by adding this to the background, suddenly you've got a sense of scale that the movie probably couldn't afford otherwise.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know, and especially in those scenes, those like swamp scenes, I was commenting, I was like, what, you know, what is it about this movie that makes it look, I mean, for lack of a more elegant term, cheap, you know,
as compared to like Dagobah.
Yeah. And Scott was like, but it doesn't look any worse than Dagobah. Like, at the end of the day, if you had never seen Empire Strikes Back, you would think that looks like a set, you know? So, and the paint tanks just kind of, they just give it a different feel, and they make it look different than than anything else at the time.
Did they talk about this movie in Jodorowsky's Dune?
It's in the montage at the end where they talk about everyone who stole from their ideas.
Are you familiar with Alejandro Jodorowsky trying to make this Dune movie? And he had a book of storyboards that was essentially the entire movie that was making its way around the studios. And a lot of the visuals of that book just ended up being in all of these huge movies. Flash Gordon being one of them, Alien, what else?
Masters of the
Universe, yeah.
Yeah. Just his...
That's why I knew that it had ended up in Alien, all right.
Right.
But I still haven't seen the documentary.
Yeah.
Which
it's really good.
Again, I think that's me, a bottle of wine, and the TV one night. Probably the best way of watching that.
Absolutely. You know, and it's when I think it's a lot of the costuming, the character design, these interesting colors. I think for a long time, sci-fi it was very, looked a certain way and austere, and Princess Aura's running around, and at one point she's not running around, but at one point she's wearing a gown, and it's a flowing gown, but it is bright pink. Mm-hmm. It's bright pink with like a gold belt.
That's like her workout wear.
Yeah,
because I think it's sort of like a spandex material.
Yes, but it had like long sleeves, and it was like a long gown to the ground. And I was just like, what if Princess Leia's iconic like entrance look from New Hope
look like that?
What if it was pink? Like you never would think of that for a sci-fi movie, but this movie did it. And something about, in Jodorowsky's Dune, I think he was just so like avant-garde, and he was, if you're going to have Salvador Dali in your movie as the Emperor of the Galaxy, the costumes are going to be a little bit more than just white robes. And I think this movie kind of took that and ran with it. And I'm just like, why couldn't Princess Leia be wearing a bright pink spandex dress? But
I mean, like, you're so right. But then I think by the time, and obviously there's the poster of Return of the Jedi behind you, because Princess Aura's entrance look and Princess Leia's slave look, there definitely seems to have been a little bit of a, not just like
carryover.
There was inspiration there.
Absolutely.
And actually, also, I'm not going to let Star Trek off the hook for taking inspiration either, because I think that the battle in the Mutara Nebula, Wrath of Khan, I think there is a little. I think inspiration might have been seen from this film, because you can see it in the color palette, because it's all those purples and pinks and everything. Yeah. Sure, it's darker overall, but you still see that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the paint tanks and all of that stuff. It's yeah. You're right. I love that. Oh my goodness. Oh man, and how about that Picard episode 3? We'll talk about that later. Speaking of Mutara Nebula. All right. So we have we talked a little bit about, who's this movie for, and the crazy, like,
you would
there's
think
homoeroticism.
You would think that they're making a children's movie.
Yeah.
Because it's Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
But there's homoeroticism. There's sexy ladies.
Yeah.
There's just kind of something in this movie for everyone.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. So this is bringing me to Sam Jones. And, he's this beefcake, hunky guy. His acting skills are what they are,
But I do like that he plays the character very sincere, and it really works.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
His costumes go from his like very tight ringer T-shirt with his own nickname on it, in a really great logo. Because that's the thing. His character, he's a football player, and they call him Flash. Like that's just what his fans call him. So he's got Flash written on his shirt. And so we go from like the very tight T-shirt that gets ripped. Then we've got like the brown leather loincloth for the execution. Then we've got a Mingo City kind of security guard outfit when she's smuggling him out. That gets ripped. He's in various states of undress throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which I'm okay with. Which leads me to what I never knew, is that Scott found that once the movie was released, Playgirl magazine got a hold of...
They got a hold of these photos in the 70s, and they did a Playgirl spread. And I looked up the photos, and oh, mama.
Well, my favorite thing about this... Go ahead.
I was going to say, look, talk about, forward thinking. A lot of the time, women are objectified in these films. Well, in this film, we are objectifying Sam Jones.
Yeah.
And it sounds like I'm joking, but I mean, God bless his cotton socks, he was not cast for his acting ability. But I agree with you as well, Scott. He is absolutely earnest in the role. Like,
it totally works.
Be a likable doofus.
Yeah.
He did it. Yeah. And he did it very well. Like, you are rooting for Flash throughout this whole film.
When he's been sentenced for execution, Dale has been sentenced to be betrothed to Ming, and she has they have like a little meetup right before his hourglass is running out, and he's standing there in the leather loincloth, and like you said, they've met in the timeline of this movie. Less than 24 hours. And, I mean, granted, these are extreme circumstances. We've been teleported to another planet and dimension, and you're going to be executed, and I'm going to be married off to this crazy guy. So maybe you're the only human being that I know, so maybe I am falling in love with you. But he's shirtless in this scene, and she is up there, and they're having this whole conversation, and she's just like running her fingers through his chest hair, like the whole time. I'm just like, oh, Melody Anderson, you lucky woman. She's loving it.
This isn't happening, Dale. We're not here. It's just a bad dream.
Oh, I agree completely. Why, we'll wake up any minute in Dark Harbor and have a laugh about all this.
Yeah. Only next time I won't just ask the maitre d' your name. I'll walk over and talk to you.
You promise?
I promise. Cross my heart and hope to. I really will talk to you, Dale.
Oh, what if we're wrong, Flash?
We can't be.
What if it isn't a dream?
Then you'll find Zarkov. You'll save the Earth somehow, and he'll get you home in the capsule.
But what about you?
Don't think of me, Dale. Think...
Flash!
No, don't look at it.
It won't turn over. It won't turn over.
My goodness. But I don't know. Yeah, it's great, but it's something that I, as a little kid and like a little queer kid, was just kind of used to, because I did grow up with Masters of the Universe.
Sure, you were used to playing with these little beefcake action figures.
Yeah, my He-Man action figures, they came with a harness. Those harnesses are very expensive. I don't have one because the leather ones are upwards of $200.
That is so true. I mean, because there's a popular meme that's going around for a long time, and people talk about the harmful image of women that Barbie puts out there, right? And it is because I think they said, like, for a woman to actually look like that, she would have to be dead.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, it's also. But look at He-Man.
Yeah.
It's just like, that is completely, unachievable. But also, as you say, it was just totally normal to have a leather daddy running around as the hero of your piece. And we just didn't question it.
Yeah, you just sort of accepted it.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And as you say, those harnesses are quite expensive.
Unless you get the neoprene, then you're in a little bit easier territory. I had when the Masters of the Universe movie came out, I was very excited. And, when I watched it, granted, like we said, it's not exactly like the show. They're transported to Earth, and I was a little disappointed in that. But you know what I wasn't disappointed in? Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah.
Dolph Lundgren is He-Man. And to see him bare-chested in this harness running around for 2 hours, I'm okay with that. And the toys, these guys, the thighs on these toys, the thighs are insane. And there's another meme that's like, little boys can't play with dolls because that's gay, that's queer. A little boy playing with a Barbie doll, give him an action figure. And even the Skeletor action figure, he's a skeleton.
Even Skeletor's pretty jacked.
Yeah.
Like, as you say as well, I mean, I love this nonsense argument that, like, they'll have a bad influence, you'll grow up gay, because that's, of course, how it works.
Yeah.
But it's just like, well, I mean, if anything is going to make you gay, it's going to be, kind of like, hi, I got to play with, well, I won't finish that sentence, but anyway, like, bloody hell. And I did have a He-Man. So maybe there is an argument for my queerness.
I mean, come on. Watching Sam J. Jones oiled up getting felt up by Dale Arden. I just couldn't when I was watching it, and she's so scared, and she's just like, oh, Flash, and he's just like, go turn over the hourglass, and I'm watching it, and I'm just like looking at her hands, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is making me feel uncomfortable. I need an adult.
Would you two like to be alone?
Yeah.
No.
What have I walked in on? But and
what did she say when she's trying to pick up the hourglass?
It won't turn over. I love the way her delivery. It won't turn over. Oh my goodness. Yeah, her acting skills are chef's kiss. I love Melody Anderson as Dale Arden. But yeah, I forgot how much, with the pillow fights and the flogging and all of that. There's something for everybody in this. So there's something for the little queer boys, but there's something for the straight boys and the queer girls too. when you
as you say, in a way, I'm sure it's going to fail so many tests for so many reasons, but it's actually quite a transgressive film in its own little way.
Sure.
In its little pocket universe of 1980. It's like, we can get away with things we would never get away with in 2023, and also probably way more conservative than we even think it is.
Sure.
Because it's just like, you just walked a very fine line that absolutely none of you knew you were walking.
Right. And I think being a European production really has a lot to do with that too. If this movie was made strictly in America by Americans, it would no way be as sexy as it is or as horny as it is.
Yeah.
I feel like an American filmmaking crew would tone that down in 1980, would have toned that down so much, And so thank you, Dino De Laurentiis.
Yeah, he was a character. Just when you look up his filmography of all of these properties that he had his hands in, that he produced the Halloween sequels, Halloween 2 and Halloween Season of the Witch. What? So it's like he had his fingers in that. He did the Thomas Harris books, Red Dragon and Hannibal in the 2000s. So he just kind of had his hands in everything.
And his sister Rafaela produced Dune.
And
same year.
And is his niece
Giada De
Laurentiis? Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Everyone's famous, large-headed, very thin TV chef. Mm-hmm. I love Giada. She also, the cool thing about Giada De Laurentiis is that she has Rafaela on her show, Aunt Raffi. She has Aunt Raffi come on, and Rafaela De Laurentiis is a kook. When she's on Giada, it's amazing. I seek out these episodes because she's insane and I love it. But yeah, that family is great.
Are there even movie producers like that anymore?
No, I don't think so. That's what I was saying.
Also, you don't really see a movie producer solely responsible for what they're producing. Now it's like a whole committee of people, lawyers that are telling people what to do.
Yeah, and I think specifically for De Laurentiis movies, it's like you call it a De Laurentiis movie, and the director's almost kind of like, oh, he's there too, because it's so spearheaded by him. Go ahead.
You're right. I'm trying the names that might fall, maybe Tarantino when he produces, you can still see that. Basically, it's a Tarantino film.
Yeah.
Tim Burton, of course, famously did not direct A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Right.
He did, but he didn't. But, things like that. It's I think as well, that's where the ballooning costs of filmmaking have, I think, I can't imagine, obviously I can't imagine this film as it stands being made today, but in 1980, $27 million was a lot of money.
Yeah.
$27 million is a lot of money today, don't get me wrong. But, $27 million, that was a lot of money for a film. They were taking a punt on this. So I was looking at this going they improvised on set. Someone didn't, the left hand did not know what the right hand was doing on this film set. For better or worse, you got a cult classic.
Yeah.
Some critics got it at the time. Pauline Kael, who wrote for The New Yorker, called it a disco in the sky, and Pauline Kael does appreciate good camp.
I was going to say Pauline Kael hates everything,
but Pauline Kael gets shit like this. She gets camp.
Okay.
So she was all about it. Roger Ebert was into it. Like, I think that Roger Ebert saw, oh, you're doing a Flash Gordon movie. So yeah, that's what the movie should be.
Yeah.
So some people got it. It didn't make a lot of money in America, but I think it made decent money worldwide in Italy and Great Britain. So
sure.
It still probably lost money in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. And I had read that there, as recently as 2018, Taika Waititi was attached to animated feature.
Okay.
But that's...
I don't think
there's nothing.
I don't think
there's
anything's
nothing on the
coming of
books,
it.
for that. And I think it could possibly work as an animated feature, but I don't know that they could do a live action one today. May not work.
I just kind of want to see this exact same film released with no warning to the general public, and just see, all right, everyone who's been raised on Marvel and, you know, all these other sci-fi properties where everything looks so slick.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
We should probably talk a little bit about Queen scoring this movie.
Oh,
so I know at the time,
goodness.
I don't really think a rock band had ever scored a movie before quite like this. I mean, there was stuff like Tommy, but that's something so separate.
Well, I mean,
something like this.
Yeah, and then when you get to 82, you get Vangelis doing
Chariots of Fire.
Well, Chariots of Fire and Blade Runner.
Blade Runner, yep.
And when was Legend?
Legend was 85. Tangerine Dream did Risky Business. So
yeah. So it's there, it's happening, but I think those were all prog rock bands. Like Tangerine Dream, Vangelis, Queen. I think this is a mainstream rock band. So I think that's a little different than kind of what was going on. And this intro song.
And I mean, like that's it. That intro song, you mention it. If you say the words Flash Gordon to anyone, now I would be fairly confident saying they're going to think of the song before they think of the film.
Yeah.
I said it the other day at work.
Because it's iconic.
Yeah. I said it the other day at work, and my coworker
he just went,
just quoted the song. Yeah. Like it just makes you just want to scream out loud.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great, and there's some really cool stuff going on with the score in the movie. So every now and then I'm just like, this is really cool. This bit's really cool. I love this bit. Granted, the wedding march, I Let It Slide.
Oh, I love it. Brian May shredding on that guitar. I think it's so cool.
Oh man, I'm just like, they're on another planet in another galaxy in the fourth dimension, and here's the wedding march. and the priest or officiant or whatever is fully just like, and is there anyone here who does not this is a Judeo-Christian like wedding ceremony. Who cares but it's Brian May.
There's a whole bigger thing about maybe did the Mingos, did they seize the planet Earth and other planets like that, or did we send people out with the dinosaurs? Who knows?
But you know what? We got to hear Brian May shredding on the wedding march, and so that's at the end of the day, that's what matters. But
when we revisit episode 1, I can see the most Flash Gordon influences in the prequels of that. You can really see that Flash Gordon was like, that was a big passion for Lucas, and you can definitely see it in the prequels.
Yeah, because that's when the ships start getting a little bit more rocket ship looking, and
you start to see the universe expanded more. You start to see people in bars, like where the Jedi
like
bar,
a disco,
the disco Jedi bar from episode 2 that we just watched. Even the opening of episode 1 is giving me very Flash Gordon of when.
Yeah, everything on that ship.
Yep, everything on that ship. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the first time when I was like a teenager watching, when the big documentaries started coming out about Star Wars, and they first would play clips of the Flash Gordon serials and the opening text crawl.
Oh yeah,
and that shit blew my mind. I was just like, "What?" He straight up.
I love this part. Like, I love what Lucas did. I love it because he took the most classic elements of sci-fi and modernize them for a 1977 audience when it came to A New Hope. And
yeah, it's interesting because I think there's somewhat conflicting stories of he wanted Flash Gordon and couldn't afford it, so he wrote Star Wars, or he was offered Flash Gordon and he said no because I'm already writing Star Wars. Like, I don't know what the real story is. It's somewhere in there. I think he probably really wanted to just do that first, and Fox was just like, we're not gonna buy those rights for I think Fellini. Another story is that Fellini already had the rights, so
Fellini
Fox couldn't buy it.
Being considered to direct this movie with De Laurentiis,
right?
And then I think he just like.
But this is also in the weird stories of Lucas not being able to, or not eventually not making Flash Gordon and creating his own version, which ultimately became the Star Wars. So it's like, I don't know if Star Wars fans have Flash Gordon to thank for creating their biggest personality trait of liking Star Wars. So, but I mean, at the end of the day, I just feel like this is something that I've put on at parties on mute just to have something on a TV
to have on in the background,
with everybody just talking, and it's a good talking point because it's so kooky.
It would be a good movie to have on when you're at a bar.
Yeah,
just on in the background.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're so right. Like whatever loving criticism can be put against this film, they went all in.
Yeah.
They went absolutely all in. And like I say, yeah, maybe some things didn't connect, but everyone is giving it 110% to the best of their abilities in this film. So if it's on in the background, it's going to stand out. You will know, and you will immediately know that's Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the 1980 Flash Gordon film. There's no kind of like, even though you can see the things that were inspired by it, and the things that inspired it, you're like, no, only that looks like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there's something about these properties that were written in the 1930s in the United States that are just, like I said, maybe we've aged out of them, even to an extent, like even Superman sometimes is like, oh, he flies. Great.
Do you think
he's very strong?
Do you think that just has to do with the depression of the 30s and just kind of this escapism in comics?
Absolutely does. Absolutely does. But, when you see something like John Carter of Mars, it's like he went to Mars. That's only one planet away. And he can jump very high. He jumps real far on John Carter. That's his power. Nowadays it's like there's got to be so much going on and origin stories and all of this. And these properties from this Depression era are just so like not naive, but just so innocent almost in their storytelling. Yes. This is just a guy and his girlfriend who are transported to another planet, and they're going to save them.
And they're going to save the world.
Yeah.
That's it. How are they going to do that? No one knows.
Yeah.
Why are they going to do that? Because they're there.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
That's it. He's not, a fabled, prophesied this or that. He's not the only person who has the skills. He's a good football player, don't get me wrong. But he's not the only one.
Yeah. Or the chosen
there's a charm
one.
to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it does make it difficult in today's Hollywood climate.
Well, everyone loves to pick everything apart.
Yeah, for that to translate. Yeah. So that's possibly that, because Scott and I enjoy John Carter. I mean, you want to talk about the gays, Taylor Kitsch running around in a loincloth for 2 hours. I'm on board with it, but it did not do well. And is it just because this property, this storyline is just people just don't, it just doesn't fit with where sci-fi and action adventure and all that is going.
Didn't
today.
Quite fit into that MCU mold
right.
that movies were going for at that time.
Right. So
it's true. There's so much positive to say about the MCU and about, particularly I'd say the first decade of it. It did things that cinema had never seen before, or, it hadn't seen done quite like that. But the undeniable knock on of that is that if you're not part of a franchise, you're really going to struggle.
Yeah.
And we've seen everything from the world be, blown up to, men and women with these superpowers. How could you possibly take this down? So that guy can carry a thing and he can run through some guards.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And it is, and you do, and there is a sadness to that because it's a simple story. These kind of stories are very simple.
Yeah.
They're not trying to be anything more than what you see is what you get. Yeah. And yes, the audiences today, and I'm not saying I'm innocent of this.
Oh yeah,
absolutely not. But audience today would be like, oh, I see, yeah. So what are the 17 different Easter eggs that are hidden in his T-shirt?
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Everything's got to be part of something bigger. And I think they were planning on this being a franchise. I think they were planning on doing.
You see Ming's laugh when you see that ring at the very end of the movie.
Oh, his ring of the Schwartz from Spaceballs?
The ring of the Schwartz. That's what we immediately thought of.
It is absolutely the ring of the Schwartz. Yeah. So, and I think that they were planning on it, but just the box office kind of failure, I guess, kind of stopped those plans. But I think it could have, it could have lent. There could have been more to these characters and this world that they were attempting to build. But
it's fun to see what a big thing this movie has become, especially in probably the past 15 years. I mean, Sam J. Jones probably just does the con circuit with this movie with the cast,
making a tidy little,
and they probably make their income. And this movie is very well regarded with fans of sci-fi.
Well, that's the thing. Now, we're at a time when filmmakers in their 40s were kids in the 80s. And so all of these properties, they're just like, that shit was great. I grew up on that, and now I'm in a position of power. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes we get some fan fiction-esque storylines, Star Wars sequels. But
sure.
Other times it works out really well, and you get something like Thor Ragnarok, which is something from the MCU that is, I think everybody can stand behind and just be like, this is just a fun movie. How can we fault this? How can we fault this? But I think that's just kind of where we are, where people my age are kind of in power in the film industry. So they're bringing in these things that they love and making really good sense. And when it works, it works. When it works, you get Stranger Things. And when it doesn't work, we get other shows that we forgot about that get canceled after 7 episodes. But unfortunately, we are running out of a little bit of time today, so we got to wrap it up.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Yeah, Sean, this was so much fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for making the time, carving out the time to be with us today. But before we let you go, like Scott said at the beginning of the show, you're from Trek Culture on YouTube. Why don't you talk a little bit about where we can find you and where we can watch all of your various and sundry projects that you're working on?
Well, thank you so much. Yes, as you mentioned, I am on Trek Culture on YouTube. So we are the largest Star Trek YouTube channel outside of Star Trek Main itself, where it's just we get to talk about all things Trek, clues in the name. We're also I'm part of Who Culture as well. So for all the Doctor Who fans out there, you can find me there as well. I am a co-host on the Clone Star podcast. Which is a kind of a side venture that we set up during the pandemic with my co-host, Joseph Hurley. And through them, we've managed to score a lot of interviews with some really, really interesting names. So we are available basically wherever you get podcasts. That's where we are. If you get your podcasts behind the bushes, we're probably behind the bushes. That's the kind of that was going to be our tagline for a while, and Joseph will be horrified that I have said that. And then we're on all of the various socials as well. Just type in Seán Ferrick, and It'll bring you to somewhere, and I am legally not responsible for wherever it brings you to.
I was going to say I'm a big fan of your other Twitter account. Listeners, if you want to look that up.
Oh, boy.
Yes. So for age appropriate listeners, there is other content out there as well, all of which can be found. Again, I don't exactly hide it.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
It's
No,
not
I love
difficult to find.
Yeah, great. We love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. After a year, we'll hopefully we can have you on, and it won't take another year to get you back on. But anytime, you're more than welcome. So we will we'll let you go. We'll bid you adieu. Thank you so much once again.
Bye, Sean.
Bye.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
See you later.
And thank you so much for listening, everyone. And a big thank you to our friend Sean for calling in all the way across the pond. Thank you so much, Sean. I mean, we made it work. It was some tough scheduling, but we got everybody in. And Flash Gordon, man, what a movie. We love it. But, yeah, we hope to have our friend Sean over again sometime for another movie. But until then, you can follow him on Trek Culture and listen to what he has to say about lots of fun sci-fi stuff. But I think right now, it is about that time. Time for some Patreon shoutouts. We would like to say a great big hello and thank you to all of our wonderful patrons, including Dan, another Dan. Well, the first one is Dan C. The second one is Dan H. Whirly Flower, Lori, Brenna, Jessa Rabbit, Lawrence, Danielle, Lisa, Alexis, Thomas, Mark, Jackson, Millie, Ted, Benny, Jermel, Melanie, Susan, JJ, Shelby, Michael, Heather. Let's see. Oh, there we are. Jamie, Drew, Genevieve, Dawn, Joshua, Emma, Melly, Aaron, Jessica, Nick and Shannon, Christine, and also our friend Rufino. You guys, thank you for being a friend. Thank you so much for being patrons. Head over to www.patreon.com/moviesthatmadeusgay to check out all of the fun additional supplemental material that you get when you become a patron. We've got newsletters that go out every month. We've got additional bonus tracks, which are our Watch With Us commentary tracks. We pick a brand new movie that we haven't yet done on the show, or maybe we will do on the show at a later time. But what we do is, instead of doing a regular episode, we do a commentary track. So we sit down and we watch the movie with you, the listener. So it's like you're watching it with us. You can sync it up to the movie, and it's really fun to watch it along, or you can just listen to it, in your car at your leisure as a bonus episode. And those are really fun. There's over 20 of those, so you'll have access to all of those at the top level. The newsletters, like I said, there's also behind the scenes photos, seasonal playlists, lots of fun stuff going on. So, we really appreciate all the donations that you guys provide to us. They keep the show, up on the internet every month, ad free for you. So thank you so much for all of your donations. And if you can't do a ongoing subscription, you can just do 1 month's worth, and in the 30 days, just check out everything that you want to check out. And thank you so much for the little donation. So head over to patreon.com/moviesthatmadeusgay and see all that fun stuff. We'd also love it if you would like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or on whatever podcast broadcasting application that you use. So if you're on Apple Podcasts or if you're on Spotify, we'd love it if you would smash that 5 stars. All those stars and comments really help for us to kind of get some traction, and they help spread the word and helps more people to find our show. So just hitting 5 stars really, really helps. And if you want to write a review, if you're on Apple Podcasts, feel free to go ahead and do that. We have a new review. This is from an Apple Podcast listener across the pond again. This is, let's see. This is from an Apple Podcast listener in the UK. Let me pull this up right now. We love all of your comments, and like we said, anytime a new comment gets posted, we'll go ahead and read it on the show. And so we're going to go ahead and read one of the reviews right now. This is from Apple Podcasts, Great Britain. BJams78 is the user. Love that name, BJam78. And the title is Favorite Podcast on the Internet. Favorite with a U, because they're from Great Britain. These guys literally cover all the movies, all the films my siblings and I grew up with and discuss them like normal film buffs, and it's amazing, all caps. Great guest stars, great film choices, great content, and great hosts. Thank you. This podcast gets me through errands and the school run. I love these guys. And in quotations, forever young. I like that title. Thank you so much, BJams78, all the way from Apple Podcasts in Great Britain. I actually haven't read this one. This is a short and sweet one. This is from Apple Podcasts right here in the U.S. Cupcake Yay. The title is Love the Pod, ! Unfortunately, none of the movies made me gay, but I'm still hoping it'll happen. Hey, there's always time. So yeah, if you want to write a review on Apple Podcasts, we'll go ahead and read it just like those two brand new friends. Thank you, friends and new listeners. So yeah, head over and do that. You can also follow us on any and all social media platforms. We're on all of them or most of them. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Movies That Made Us Gay, and we're on Twitter at MTMUGPod. And if you want to follow our personals, feel free. My name is Pete. I'm at Peter Lasagna on Instagram and Twitter, and Scott is at Scott Youngballer on Instagram, and you can follow his letterbox. Just look up Scott Youngbauer, and his letterbox is lots of fun. So thank you so much, everyone. Once again, thanks again to Sean. Thanks again to all the listeners and to all the patrons. We will see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.